Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Data Structures and Algorithms. In this episode, we are going to have a look at the meaning of a data structure known as linked list. So, linked list is a linear data structure. Linked lists. So, they are linear. This means that we can access these linked lists sequentially. Now, let us see a sample linked list and how it looks like and what sort of operations we can perform on a linked list. So, a linked list would look something like this. We are already aware that how arrays look in the memory. So whatever I'm drawing is all memory representation of all these data structures. So this is an array and these are the indexes of these positions of arrays. We know that an array is a sequential data structure, 5, 6 and 7. Okay. So we know that an array is a sequential data structure and we can access all the elements sequentially and we can access any element of an array anytime. The only problem with the arrays is that they require continuous memory locations or contiguous memory locations to be stored. So if array is actually too big, then we cannot store that array in a single contiguous memory location. So that is why we have got a remedy on that. There is something known as linked list. So this is the symbolic representation of a linked list. Basically, this is how a linked list looks like in a computer's memory. I mean, this is actually symbolic representation. This is not actually how it looks like. Basically, it's all bits and bytes, ones and zeros, and all the ASCII data. So, I mean, if you try to take a dump of your computer's memory, it won't actually show you something like that. And here we have something like some numbers 2, 6, 8, and this is a simple linked list. This is known as simple linked list or singly linked list. So the first part, or let me tell you in a better way. So all these three things, 1, 2 and 3, these three things are known as nodes. And all the nodes, they make a singly linked list. So the nodes have got two parts. The first one is data and the second one is the pointer known as next. So whenever you are going to declare a linked list, first of all, you have to define a node, and that node is going to have two fields. So this is how you can write actually a struct or a class in our object-oriented programming languages corresponding to a node. You can either define it as a structure in C or you can define it as a class in C++, Java and Python. So the class is going to have two parts, data and next. So this is the next part. Okay, it is pointing to the next node. So this part is going to have the address of the next node. And this way we have the data part, we have the next pointer, and we have nodes, and those nodes are connected to each other with links. That is why it is known as a linked list. So this is a very interesting concept and very interesting phenomena. And now you must have understood that linked lists are not stored in the contiguous memory locations. So suppose we have memory locations from 1 to 100, 001 to 100. Okay, so if you want to store an array of 5 numbers, then you will have to store them from 1 to 5. Okay, but if you want to store a linked list, then probably you will actually require two contiguous bytes. The first byte is for the data and the next byte is for the next pointer. And then you can have actually, so suppose this is at 0, this is at 1, then you can have the next thing at some other place. It may be 16 and 17. And this next part is going to have the address of that 16 thing. Okay. So whenever we are going to write a program, we are going to fetch the data from this data part, and then we are going to go ahead and fetch the address from the next part, and then we are going to directly jump to that place. Okay. So this is what we call as a link. So basically link is nothing but the address of the memory location. So basically that is how it works. at system level. If you have ever worked with assembly level programming, then you must have actually seen all of this stuff in the action. So nowadays we are using higher level programming languages like C, C++, Java and Python. So we really don't have to worry about memory and all. We can just define a struct or a class structure in C or a class in C++, Java and Python, and it is going to create a node. Then we can define another class known as linked list, and then we can have a head node in that, and that's it. So whenever you define node, you always define this next node, next part of that node as none or null. So C, C++, Java, they use null and Python uses none. They both are kind of equal, but not quite equal. Okay, so whenever you are going to create a node, it is going to be initiated with a null pointer, and then we can manually go ahead and establish that link. You can either establish that link programmatically, or you can manually write some simple code to point it to the next node. So let me now clear the window, and okay, I cleared the canvas now, so it is quite exciting. Now we are going to have a look at a few simple operations on a linked list. Now let us talk about an empty node. So suppose you have something like this. This is known as an empty node, okay? And this is also a valid linked list. Now we are going to talk about a linked list with a single node. Now this is a linked list with a single node. This is also a legitimate linked list. And now we can actually have a bit bigger linked list like this. Sorry, linked list don't work like that. So let me erase it. Bigger linked list means more nodes. Sorry, I'm really very sorry for the mistake I have committed. So this is the first node, this is the second node, and this is the third node. So this is the same as example that we have seen earlier. And that's it. So this is a linked list. Now, if we want to traverse a linked list, we need to have a temporary node. We usually call it as head node, okay? This head node is always pointing to the first node of your linked list. So whenever you want to have some sort of programmatic control over your linked list, then the head node always points to the first node in your linked list. And then you can change. See, suppose the name of this node is first, name of this node is second, and the name of this node is third. Then first dot data equals to, suppose they are populated with values 6, 2, and 8. Then the first dot data equals to 6. First dot next, it refers to second node, okay? So these are not actually assignments, these are actually equality things, okay? Second node. And I can actually now address second node in couple of ways. I can just say second dot data equals to 2, or first, let me increase this size, dot next dot data equals to 2. And we can also say first dot next dot next dot data equal to 8, which one is the third node, or second dot next dot data equals to 8, or third dot data equals to 8. So these are all mathematically valid things. And these all mean the same things. These last three lines, all of them, they mean the same things. Now let us have a look at a few operations that we can perform on a linked list. Again, we are going to create a simple sample linked list. Now let us use the green color because it is pleasing to eyes. So these are the nodes of a simple singly linked list. And we are going to have a look at a few applications of linked list first. We can store numbers in linked list, okay? Suppose I store something like this 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. And if I traverse this link serially, then it will be 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. It is a binary number and we can write a simple program to compute its value. Also, this could be a polynomial. We are all aware of mathematical stuff known as polynomials, right? So the polynomials mean, let me tell you by example. So it could be like x cube plus x square plus 5x plus 1 equal to 0. This is a polynomial, okay? Or let us say 6x cube. So basically this is a polynomial equation and we can represent this part, this entire part, with a linked list. So let us create a simple linked list for representing this polynomial, and that will be quite awesome. I will say polynomial. And I am going to draw 4 nodes now. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now here every node will correspond to a particular degree of that polynomial. So this will start at 0, 1, 2, and 3. And let us key in the coefficients. Now this 6 is a coefficient. Now it has got coefficient 1. There is no coefficient means 1. This is 5 and this is 1. So this is actually x raised to 0. So let us go ahead and write down coefficients here. 1, 5, 1, and 6. And suppose a term is missing here. Suppose had there been no x square, then I would have listed it as 0. So this is how we can represent polynomials with linked lists. Now if you have two linked lists, then you can simply go ahead and add the members of that linked list, nodes in that linked list, and you will have the addition between two polynomials. Okay, so suppose if you have like third degree polynomial like this, you can just go ahead and add these two things, okay? And then store the result in a third linked list, and the third linked list will represent the polynomial, that is a summation of two polynomials. So this is how we can use singly linked list. Now let us see a couple of operations that we can perform on linked list. So suppose you have a simple linked list like this. The first operation is push. That is going to insert the node in the very beginning. And to do that, we have to, here we have the head node, okay? That points to the very first node. We have to change the address, target address of that head node to the newly created node, and the target address or the next pointer of the newly created node should be set to the very first node in the list. Then it is going to be like pushing a new element to the linked list. We can also remove the last element we can also add the last element, and that is also quite easy. We just have to create a new node and point this last node to the new node, and the new node's target should be set to null or none. So this is how we can add a node in the end, and it is known as append. Similarly, we can add a node in between. We can actually provide it a position, and our code is going to traverse till that position, and then we are going to repeat the same set of steps, that is severing the link, creating a new node, and pointing it to the next node and pointing the earlier node to the newly created node. So this is how we can add the data to a linked list, and removing the data is also very easy. We can just remove the last one by just severing this link and pointing it to null. We can remove the first one by again the same formula. We can just point the head to the earlier one, and then we have to make this thing null, and we have to use that del operator or delete thing to delete that particular node. So in Python, I guess it is del, and in C++, I guess it is delete operator, which is going to free the memory. See, only pointing the head to the next element is not enough. We have to remove that particular thing from the memory. And if we remove that particular thing from the memory, it will be totally taken care. It won't be staying in the memory as a garbage value. So this is how we can remove the node from the first position, and the same logic applies to the entire linked list. Now, linked list is kind of very fundamental data structure, and it is fundamental user-defined data structure. It is not a fundamental data structure in a programming language. Very few programming language have got built-in support for linked lists. I guess standard template library for C++ has got support for linked list. I don't know. I'm not sure. I have never used it. Okay, you might want to check the C++ STL on Google in order to see if it has got support, built-in support for this linked list kind of stuff. So now what we are going to do is we are going to see what sort of other data structures can be created using a linked list. We are aware of stack, and I'm going to create another detailed video explaining you stack data structure. So stack is actually one-ended data structure. It has got only one open end, and we can perform operations only on one end. We can insert data on that and we can pop the data in that. And this stack is actually many times implemented at the level of hardware, because every microprocessor will have its own stack, at least one stack. So I have worked with microprocessors like 8085, 8088, 8086, 8080, and all of them have got their own stacks. They have only single stack because those are very simple microprocessors. But if you check the latest generation of processors, let's say Intel i7 or i9 or Ryzen 9, then you will find that these are multi-core processors, and each core has got its own set of stacks for working with the programs. So I will actually have another detailed episode covering the stack and queue and other data structures. So this is stack, and then there is something known as queue. So a queue looks like this. Basically, you can enter from one end and go out from the other end. So this is a queue, and we can implement all these data structures with linked list. So the reason I told you about both the data structures is that we can use linked lists to work with both the data structures. So suppose if you have a linked list, like this. So this is a very simple linked list. And this is the head node that is pointing to the first node. Now we actually define only a few operations on this linked list in such a way that we can only add the data from this side and we can remove any node from only from this side. Then it becomes a stack. Okay, and if we define operations such as we can insert the data from this one and we can remove the data or node from this one, this end, then it becomes a queue. There are a lot of applications of stacks and queues, and we are going to discuss them in later episodes. So this way we have covered singly linked list. Now there is something known as circular linked list. So let us see how we can create circular linked list. So here we have a simple linked list. It is a singly linked list, but there is a small twist. And the twist is that the last one has got a very good functional pointer that points to the very first node in the list. And here we have the head node. This is the head node and it is pointing to the very first node. So this is something what we call as circular linked list, and it also has got various applications. Now the easiest thing or the best thing about this circular linked list is that we can go into the loop, and suppose I have to perform some action and then I'm in the end. And again, if I want to go to the earlier node here, then I can just have to, I can just go ahead and traverse the entire list and come to this particular node and perform the action that I want to perform. So again, I won't have to refer to the head node and carry out my operations. I can just go ahead round and round and round. So that is why it is known as circular linked list. The only problem working with circular linked list is that if you don't keep track of some sort of temporary pointer where it is pointing, then it is easier for us to get into some sort of infinite loop, and our program will keep on running infinitely if we make mistake in the termination criteria of our loop. So there could be a lot of termination criteria based on number, based on the position and all that sort of stuff, that there shouldn't be any repetition, there shouldn't be any loop while accessing this thing. So this way we can write plenty of functions for these sort of circular linked lists. Now let us go ahead and see another type of linked list, and it is known as doubly linked list, and it is also an interesting piece of programming thing. So a doubly linked list will have, okay, I need to choose a pen, I guess, 3 fields. So these 3 are nodes. So let us name it as first, let us name it as second, and let us name it as third. So let me tell you how a doubly linked list looks like. And this is the head node. It is actually pointing to the first node. So we have a few numbers. So here we have a doubly linked list. We call it doubly linked list because it has got 2 pointers. The first pointer, that is next pointer, it points to the next node, and the previous pointer, it points to the previous node. So here the previous pointer is going to be null or none. So this is the first node and this is the terminal node. And we can always use this doubly linked list to represent our data. Now the best advantage of doubly linked list is that in singly linked list we can traverse only in one direction, and in doubly linked list we can traverse that particular data structure in both the directions, saving us a lot of headache. But it is actually very easy to lose our way, so we need to actually have extra locations in the memory or variables in the memory in order to keep the track of what direction we are going into. So that is a little bit of overhead. So let us see how we can represent a node for doubly linked list. So you must have already guessed node can be represented as data part, and left or previous and right or next. So this is how we can define a node for a doubly linked list in the memory. Now we can even have a circular or loop kind of doubly linked list, and that is also useful. So let me erase that. Okay, so this is very first time I'm using the eraser to erase the stuff. And let me take a pen again. So it is a red pen. And there is another link from this, and it is going to point to the very first node. So this is how we call a circular doubly linked list. So even this has got a lot of applications. I can't actually think of anything on the top of my mind, but we are going to cover a lot of episodes covering this doubly linked list. So I'm not going to cover as of now circular doubly linked list in particular, but we are definitely going to cover this doubly linked list thing. So thanks a lot for watching this video. In case you haven't understood anything in this episode, we can always create another video. So please do let me know in the questions and comments in the comment section. Thanks a lot for watching this video, and I will see you next time.